Welcome to Birds of Prey Sports Talk. We're your hosts, Jared and CJ. And in this video, we have a lot of Lamar news again. It feels like we always do. There
Mhm.
was a little lull period, after the non-tender franchise tag was applied to him, which meant that it felt like, everything was fine, like everything was going to roll smoothly, especially after no team was offering him a contract, because now it felt like, oh, well, now these owners are, I don't want to say the word exactly. Like I was say the C word, and you should know what I'm talking about. Um,
Mhm.
and it felt like Lamar was going to be back, but today on Twitter, Lamar posts, or actually he quotes a tweet from Baltimore Beatdown, saying that he declined a $2 million guaranteed contract, and he pretty much quote tweeted with is it GIF or GIF? Is it GIF?
I think it's a GIF.
GIF. Okay, he quote tweeted a GIF of a guy, pretty much calling cap on the situation, and he then replies to his own tweet saying that he was offered 3 years, $133 million, but and then he says, "But do I need an agent or whatever?" And he later tweets, I believe he said, "People throw anything on the wall and hope it sticks," and he didn't say anything. He said something more, not
Explicitive, yeah.
yeah, explicit, but I just want your opinion on this. Like, how do you feel with the new numbers that he has stated? And I do want to say that Adam Schefter, later talked about it on ESPN Live and said that it was a 3 year, $133 million guarantee contract, but he had chances to up that to pretty much do $175 million guarantees, and even up to $200 million guarantees, which would have been insane for just a 3 year contract. So I just want your opinion on this. How do you feel about with Lamar coming out about this? Like, do you think he's mad? Do you think he's happy? Like, what do you think he is right now at the moment? If you had to make a
I
guess.
do I do kind of feel like he's upset, especially because how did this even leak out in the first place? I mean, it
Right.
must have been maybe the Ravens must have leaked it out or whatever. I mean, and just to think about it, like a contract for only 3 years, like I that kind of sounds insulting. I was hoping it would be for a little bit more long term. Maybe like a 5 or 6 year deal. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe a
Mm-hmm.
7 year deal. I'm pretty sure. I think Allen got a 5 year deal. Obviously, Mahomes got that 10 year deal. So I feel that type of way about it. But on the other, but like also, it is kind of frustrating hearing all of these numbers getting thrown around.
Yeah.
We're hearing 133 million, and then we're hearing
200
175
million.
million. Yeah, 200 million. All these millions getting thrown around is like, well, obviously I want some millions my way, but anyway, um it is kind of frustrating, and I bet it is frustrating for Lamar too, hearing all these false reports about him declining all of these deals, I mean, it's really kind of making him look bad because people are saying, "Oh, why would he decline that? Why would he do
Right.
such and such?" You know, I I feel kind of frustrated by all this, So, but I just still can't get over that 3 year, $133 million deal. Like I feel like that is just not what he's worth at all. I feel like he's worth much more than that, man. I mean,
And
at least bump it up to like 6 years,
right.
maybe like 190 million guaranteed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then he'll have the chance to increase it a little bit past 200 million. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I feel like.
So I believe the $133 million is guaranteed at signing, which means that he would have made $44.3 million a year for 3 years. Because the added on, I think 175 was also guaranteed, but then the 200 was possible if he is on the team in 2026 for 5 days up into the league year. So what is that? Let me see. Sorry, I'm doing a little math here.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a $66 million a year if you were to count like $200 million for 3 straight years.
hmm
So to me, it feels like almost Lamar is upset with feeling that he's going to get these guarantees later down the line. He kind of seems like he wants control of his money now. Like, I want the guarantees now at the moment. I don't want to feel like I have to earn the guarantees because I feel like I'm saying this in his like if I was him, like if this is my thought process on maybe what he's thinking, you know, like, I don't want the guarantees fully up until 2026. I want the fully guarantees throughout my paycheck, like how Deshaun Watson's getting. And then the only problem is that, with Deshaun Watson's contract, they restructured it, but restructuring and taking a pay cut are two different things. Restructuring is just pushing that money down the line, which means that I believe the cap hit for Deshaun Watson next year is like $64 million.
Ooh.
So if I had to give my 2 cents on this, I'm mad, I'm frustrated, it's stressful because we've never had to deal with this before, and this is something new to the NFL as well. You know, because the Browns made this mess possible in the first place. Because I'm telling you, if they don't make that deal with Deshaun Watson, Mr. Mashad's therapist himself, you know, this doesn't happen. I'm telling you, this does not happen. This whole mess is avoided. Lamar is probably under contract right now for Lord knows how long. And it's just irritating because Deshaun Watson does not deserve this for everything that he's done with the 23 plus women coming out saying that he's doing this, that, and third, to them while he's getting massages, and you're giving him a fully guaranteed contract. Are you serious? Let's be real here. He paid them all off so he doesn't wind up in jail, you know? So it's just increasingly annoying. And I think what makes it even more frustrating is the judge in that case was I don't want to curse, was a female. And that what makes the situation even more irritating. So I mean, the NFL came out and said, we want to punish him more. I feel like he deserves more punishment. And then they suspend him for only half of the season, pretty much, and he's allowed to play. And then he's allowed to get paid all of his money that he's about to get. So it's very annoying. And then, like I said, the money's pushed down the line a little bit so they can make more moves this year. But the Browns are going to be in cap hell the next few years when it comes to $64 million for one dude who is not even proven to be back to his normal form. Let's be real. Deshaun Watson might never be back to his form that he was before, in Houston, because this
Mhm.
is probably messing with him mentally. And I'm glad it is because he doesn't deserve any of the money that he's given. If anything, he's be in jail.
Yeah,
you
and
know,
and just to sort of piggyback off of that, I feel like that's another reason why this situation is so difficult is
yep.
because, just like how you said, the Browns are going to be in cap hell. I mean, they're
Mm-hmm.
going to have to cut a lot of guys probably in order
Yep.
to, at least just feel comfortable again. And, you know, I feel like the Ravens, you can kind of understand them when you look at it this way. It's like, I feel like the Ravens, will be in the same way where they will have to probably get rid of a lot of guys in order to not be in cap hell,
Yep.
and then
They
that
already
might
started.
go, yeah, that might be in the ballpark of maybe trying to, oh, well, let's maybe try to restructure, I don't know, Stanley's deal, or maybe even, I don't know, maybe even think about trading him or whatever, or
Right.
maybe the same thing about Marlowe. I mean, just basically guys who are signed to big contracts right now. So I can
Right.
kind of see why they would not want to do that. And and like I said, it's a shame that, that outlier of a contract even had to happen because it just completely messes everything up.
Yep.
So it's really just a shame. I mean, I don't, if this is the reason why we lose out on having Lamar, then I'll forever hate the Browns. But, this is really just a tough situation. It is stressful.
And it's not like they paid some dude who's like, a saint. They paid a real bad dude, you know. Like I think that's and I probably what's in the discussion if that is what he wants, like, as Lamar Jackson, I'm not a freak. I'm not a freaking creep like this.
Mhm.
Lamar from the time that he's been with the Ravens, all I can think of is two incidents where he has, messed up. When he was a rookie, I believe like he was like driving really fast in his car on the highway and recording, listening to music. They called him out for it. He apologized. He never did it again. And the only other one was when he went off on Twitter on the dude, and they called him homophobic for it, but I think they just misunderstood the tweet, and Again, he apologized for that as well. So Lamar isn't going around being a creep. He isn't going around, being a criminal, and we have these Twitter keyboard warriors pretty much when he tweeted out, 3 million, I mean 3 years, $133 million, saying that, oh, well, he doesn't even understand his own contract. Like, what kind of undertone does that say that a contract that's been in front of his face probably multiple times saying he doesn't understand that? And that's the problem is people throw around all these different numbers. People throw around these different opinions. And it feels like with Lamar coming out and saying all this, everyone seems to be like, whoa, like what? Like this doesn't seem right, and they'll believe freaking Barstool Sports, but they won't believe Lamar Jackson himself. And it's very irritating. And then, like I said, I've seen plenty of people on Twitter saying he doesn't understand his own contract. Like what? Like, how do you not understand something that's right in front of your face? EDC's probably sat there and explained everything to him. And I'm pretty sure it's not that complicated. But I gotta take some water. But anyway, my next question or my next point is the report came out today that said Lamar, if they don't reach a deal, he will play on the tag. So he won't like sit out. Like, I just don't feel like that's Lamar's style either. Like he won't pull a Le'Veon Bell and sit out the whole year, and then go sign with somebody else. It says that he will play on the tag. I don't remember who reported that. I think Justina Anderson reported that, and she's been very active on the reports for Lamar Jackson. But I trust her more than like anybody else on the situation. But it is kind of confusing because Adam Schefter comes out and says one thing, and then Lamar says this, and then I don't know. He says he's seen the contract right in front of his face as well, Adam Schefter. So, and Ian Rappaport, I believe it's actually Ian Rappaport who's seen it. So
Mhm.
it's very interesting. So my next question is, you know, is it insulting for him to play on the tag?
Honestly, and I was just thinking this before as you were saying it. I hope he doesn't play on the tag, man. Like I really want when you feel like when you feel like you're worth something, and
Mm,
especially when you've done the things to prove it.
yeah,
I mean, I feel like you should just not settle for less. Like honestly, especially being in the National Football League where you guys are the 1% of the people to make it. You
right.
got to get what you're worth. You got to get your bread. So I feel like, I hope he does not play on the franchise tag. I mean, that just lets the Ravens just run over him, in the biggest way, in my opinion. You know,
Right. Mm,
I hope he doesn't hold out, and I don't think he will, because like you said, that's just not, the type of guy Lamar is. But I really hope that they can come to an agreement on something because playing on a tag would be really disrespectful. Um, that's even more time of not getting the money that you're worth.
yep.
And, I mean, basically having to prove yourself again. I mean,
And and let's be real here. Lamar hasn't signed the tag yet. So that
mhm.
32 million still hits us at the moment. But if he doesn't sign that tag and he signs a contract that I believe I asked Jeff Zarebic this today. I added him and he said, yes to my question, which was if he signs the tag. I mean, if he doesn't sign the tag and signs a long-term deal, does the long-term deal negate the cap? I mean, negate the tag that he got. And does his long-term deal is what the cap hit is now? And he said, yes. So that 32 million is just bothering us now. Work out a deal, and then you might either lower the cap or, or do whatever to make more money and make more room for, players like we talked about in our last video, D Hop, OBJ, all these guys. So, like I said, that 32 million is hindering us right now, but we can replace that with a long-term deal. Hopefully that gets done. And I do want to ask, we're trusting all these reports from Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, Justina Anderson, JPA, Ari, whatever. I don't forgot his
All right,
handle
Mayrov,
name.
yeah.
Yeah, him. Who really does know? And is it only EDC and Lamar?
I believe so. I mean, it's only those two. It's only, the negotiator and the GM.
Yep.
So I really wouldn't trust. I don't know. I really wouldn't trust anybody besides the source, which is Lamar, like how you went on a tangent on earlier. And I guess I guess if EDC wants to tell somebody like, Jeff Darlington or Ian Rappaport, somebody, so a credible source like that, um, then obviously you can believe it. But I feel like, we can still expect everything to be behind closed doors. They probably want to keep everything on the low. I mean, if, going back to kind of what we talked about, I think in the previous video about, a possible leak, I guess, we can continue to still see, possible leaks in the coming days if the contract still hasn't been signed. Whether that's by the Ravens or by Lamar, but I feel like it will be by the Ravens. But yeah, I mean, it's only between them two, man. And, we just, I don't expect it to change. I expect it to go the same way until, we get that notification on Twitter either saying Lamar Jackson has signed such and such with the Ravens, or Lamar Jackson is being traded, or Lamar Jackson is signed with such and such. And it's honestly kind of relief because tomorrow,
At
past
4 p.m.
4 p.m.,
Yep.
we're going to start getting news. Everything is going to start being answered. No more waiting, no more,
Right.
and, imagining, no more, none of that. We're finally going to get our answers if we're going to have them or we're not.
Exactly.
So it's only between them two, man, right now. Lamar and EDC.
And the teams that were supposedly in on Lamar Jackson have made moves, like the Raiders. They signed Jimmy G, and that's not. I think they signed him to a multiple year contract, so it's not like some 1 year backup deal. The Panthers got the first round pick, so that's most likely CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. The Saints got Derek Carr. The 49ers have Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, and now they have Sam Darnold. And the Dolphins picked up Tua's 5th year options, insinuating that he's going to be the starter for next season. So
And they also got Mike White as a backup.
exactly. So it's the thing is the one team that I would worry about is maybe the Commanders and maybe the Jets if Aaron Rodgers decides to stay with the Packers or retires. So because he's not going to go to the Packers because the Packers are going to roll with Jordan Love, and then the Jets. Do they really want to work with Zach Wilson another year?
And also just to talk about that, I feel like I feel like, what the Jets have been doing, especially, players like Sauce, Garrett Wilson and Brees Hall, being so open about wanting Aaron Rodgers on their team. I feel like that's kind of probably I feel like it has to have, singed the relationship between Zach Wilson and the Jets in a way.
Yeah,
So
most definitely.
I mean, they're kind of in a do or die situation. I mean, it's either we get Aaron Rodgers or not, or we get Lamar Jackson. For real, it's either between Aaron Rodgers or Lamar. But they're most likely gunning for Aaron Rodgers. I mean, even today there was a report that Aaron Rodgers gave them a list of things
Yeah,
that he would like them to do, and they've already gotten one player off that list. But, you know, for the Jets, it's kind of like they have to get Aaron Rodgers. They
yeah.
cannot do another season with Zach Wilson.
Nope.
All that talent they have on that team, it would just be a waste. And it's like they have to get him. They have to get Aaron. Um, our hopes they get Aaron just for the sake of, one less team, going after Lamar. Um, But I am kind of excited how that will turn out, I will say.
And I agree with you. And really, Aaron Rodgers just turned into a big diva, isn't he? Especially
I
after
mean,
the
well, let me just say this. I don't think I've always been an Aaron fan, so I don't feel like I'm biased or anything when I say this, but Aaron, he's 39 years old, and in the middle of the season, he's going to turn 40. So just think about it. You're at the age he's at right now. He wants to be secure in his team. He wants to make sure that, he's going into a winning environment because he's probably got at least 2 or 3 more seasons in him. I mean, I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to go to a bum team, and have have losing seasons, have no chemistry with his guys. So I can understand why he would want guys like Alan Lazard or Randall Cobb to come back, especially because the Jets' new offensive coordinator is Nathaniel Hackett, who under who helped Aaron become MVP in back-to-back seasons. So, in terms of what he's doing to the Jets, it is tedious, I will admit, but I don't think he's being a diva. I think he just wants to ensure that he will be getting the most out of his seasons with the Jets if he decides to go. But also, I feel like him doing all these things, him making all these what it seems like ultimatums to the Jets, I do feel like he has to go there now, especially if they
Yeah,
grant all of his wishes. I mean, because let's just be for real. I think one of the players he wanted the Jets to go after was Mercedes Lewis. Okay, that's doable. I'm pretty sure they can get that done within the next couple of days. Randall Cobb, that's also doable. But the one person that is probably going to be the most hard to get is OBJ.
yeah.
Aaron wants to play with OBJ. So, you know, it's just like I said, it's just gonna be very interesting to see how that plays out, you know. Yeah.
I wasn't really talking about Diva with his demands with the Jets. I was more talking about his off the field antics and like that retreat that he was doing. And he admitted, he said, I didn't think this many people would care. And I'm like, come on, a lot of people would care, especially when you're going on some freaking darkness, retreat or whatever. Like that just seems abnormal, as a public figure, I guess. But I can understand what you're saying. Um, a cool point that we heard today watching a live stream for We're No Sports Talk was that this has become less of a partnership and more of the demand on one side. It seems like there's not trust on Lamar side of the Ravens. And I kind of want to get into that for a little bit, maybe on this last part of this Lamar contract segment, because it does feel that way, that maybe Lamar doesn't trust the Ravens. And I do want to bring up some examples of why he wouldn't, because it took them 2 years after 2019 to build him a somewhat decent offensive line. And then, to be fair, Mari Stanley did get hurt, but they didn't build depth for that going into 2021. Um, let's think the receiving core has been absolutely horrendous in his tenure with the Ravens, with 2021 probably being his best receiving core, and that was still subpar. And they really treat him as the whole offense and don't want to pay him as such, in my opinion, from viewing as from the outside in. And I just want your thoughts on this. Like, what do you feel? Like, they brought up this point, and I think it was interesting because you said something about it, and I just want to hear more, about how you feel about that, with what they say.
Well, I kind of agree. I remember in a video they kind of compared it to Patrick Mahomes and how they feel like there is a partnership going on between the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. And when it comes to the Ravens, I don't feel like there is sort of a partnership. It feels more like business, like you do your job and I'm doing my job. And I feel like, and
Right.
I think that's exactly what they said in the video. And while I do agree with your points of how Lamar could possibly not trust the Ravens, especially with the wide receiver position, I feel like I also feel like another factor that is also kind of, trending him more towards the business, you do your job, I'll do my job type thing, is there's probably, friends or NFLPA players in his head, encouraging him to stand his ground and stand on um what he wants in his contract, and basically just encouraging him to stay the way he is. You know what I'm saying? And so, when you have your peers doing that, and also, I mean, your friends and family, especially family, obviously they're gonna have a little bias.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like that creates that sort of, business. It reinforces it and it cements it. It doesn't change it into like, a family partnership like how it seems like with the Chiefs.
Right.
So, I feel like as long as, the Ravens continue to treat Lamar the way they do now, it'll continue to be this way. And, hopefully, I mean, especially with the leaks, if that's what the Ravens are doing, if they're leaking out, I feel like that will maybe even probably worsen things a little bit. But all I can hope for is that in the coming days they can get a deal done and just try to if they not going to get a receiver trading, just try to do well in the draft. Get
Right.
JSN, Zay Flowers, something to just reassure Lamar that hey, we're still looking out for you. We're still
Right.
trying to build this, and we'll show you even more in the future how serious we are.
I mean, we can't say that they haven't done anything offensively because wide receivers are just one part of the offense that they failed him in. They failed him in the offensive line perspective in 2020 and 2021 because Tyree Phillips was an awful backup for right guard. Obviously, Orlando Brown had to be switched over to left tackle. And I think that Ronnie Stanley is light years better than Orlando Brown at the left tackle position. And
Mhm.
then, I mean, the center issues with the ball going over the head, like I forgot about those, but they sometimes they'll pop into my head every once in a while. That was ridiculous. And we're running out of time here, as Zoom tells me. Um, I didn't want this to be like a 30-minute video, but I guess it's going to be. But like I said, but you have an elite tight end, and one of the points that they also brought up is a person asked the question like they failed out Lamar offensively, but the Chiefs of all they've done is built around Patrick Mahomes. And I agreed with what they said, saying that they haven't really built around him. They just infused him in the offense that was already there. I mean, you're talking about an offensive mastermind in Andy Reid. I mean, you had the fastest receiver in the NFL, one of the fastest men on the planet, to be honest. You had decent backups like Sammy Watkins and McCole Hardman. And then you had, you know, alien god like Travis Kelsey as your freaking tight end. And the only year they didn't win the Super Bowl, or the 2 years I should say, is in 2018, had awful defense. 2020 had an awful offensive line. And in 2021, I can't really think about what their problem was in 2021. I think it might just possibly been the pressure of losing the Super Bowl. I feel like you have to get back because remember in 2021 they were like 3-4 or something like that, or like 4-5 or whatever it was, and then they went on a
Definitely the
run.
defense in a way
Right.
too.
And in 2022, while their defense still wasn't elite, I mean, Chris Jones was a monster, but Patrick Mahomes was otherworldly. I mean, they got rid of Tyreek Hill, but they brought in, Tony, and they brought in Juju Smith-Schuster, which aren't like elite options, but they're better really than the Ravens have had in Lamar's tenure. Let's be real
Right.
here, as
And
pass
and
catchers and speed guys and whatever.
right. And I just want to say, if you think about it in a way, they have built around Mahomes because while you say that yes, he was infused, we really got to see, last year when they lost Tyreek and they lost Sammy Watkins. They did build around Mahomes in terms of receiving. I mean, they got Juju, they ended up getting Kadarius Toney, they got MVS. Now, these guys, they're not like Tyreek Hill or Devontae Adams, good at everything. All of them are good. Each of
That's
them
something.
are special in, one aspect.
Yep.
So when you have guys that are special at one thing and you put them all together, you have you still have so many different options to go to when you need something for a specific play. So let's say that it's 3rd and 10 and you want to go, I don't wait, it's like, I don't know, 2nd and 10, you want to go deep. You got MVS. He's a very good deep threat, easy 30, 40-yard bomb right there.
Yep.
You know, you have Kadarius Toney. I mean, he has like the best feet in the NFL, the best hips in the NFL. You want to get extra yak, turn a 3rd and 5 into, I don't know, a 50-yard play. Boom, you got him right there. And
Yep.
they're also thinking about having him as their wide receiver one in the next coming years. Same thing with Juju. Very, very, shifty player, great route runner, who has decent hands. So they all have guys that are good at one thing, so they
Yeah.
kind of did build around him in a way, you know, I feel like.
I guess you could say that. And then they had to rebuild the offensive line, as
Yeah.
well. Something that we kind of forgot. So I guess I would call it more of a rebuild than building around because it was good for what it was, and then pieces left, and they kind of had to retool. It's less of, to me, I view it less as a building around because honestly, you have to build those people around Mahomes because Mahomes is just elite. he's the best quarterback in the game. Let's not be crazy biased because we're Ravens fans. Like he's the best quarterback in the game. Like he's a monster. You give him a good offensive line and even just subpar receivers, he might be in the Super Bowl still. Just because of who he is. He has a clutch gene. He gets a clutch factor that is unmatched to anybody in the NFL that, you know, Josh Allen certainly doesn't have, and Joe Burrow certainly doesn't have, and I think that if the Bengals built an offensive line that was good enough for Burrow, I think that they could possibly be the Super Bowl every year, especially with the receivers they have, but they're gonna have to pay him soon, so they're gonna be in the same predicament as us, hopefully. But anyway, I was saying, I would call it less of a building around and more of a rebuild, retool, because they had to, you know, fix what was broken. Offensive line was broken. You fixed that. But then, but to be honest, Tyreek Hill was also an interception machine for Mahomes. How many drop passes did he have that led to interceptions in 2021? When Mahomes threw like 15, 16 interceptions, so I mean, it was all most of his picks as well were him trying to do too much, him trying to be a Superman, superhero, whatever, make a crazy ass throw on his feet, on the ground, but you know, a lot of interceptions as well went through Tyreek's hands, so they got guys who don't have, bricks for hands, have glue for hands. Juju has great hands, or good hands. Tony has good hands as well. You said the good feet work. And VS also has good hands. They got guys with good hands. You can rely on them if the game's on the line, really. So I just feel like the Ravens haven't had that, because I mean Marquise Brown was good sometimes and then bad sometimes, and then Bateman, same thing. I think 2021 he was really a good receiver, it sounded like he was reliable, but you know, going off what you were saying, I think the best option for us in this offseason is OBJ, maybe McCole Hardman, and then have Rashad Bateman because you guys that can do different things. Burners, feet work, kind of both. So or maybe red zone threat, maybe third down threat, slant threat, because Rashad Bateman has speed and he has decent size. So he needs to learn how to go up and get the ball. Rashad Bateman could be McCole Hardman and OBJ at the same time. So having a wide receiver 1 is important, but having a wide receiver 2 and 3 is just as important. And that's what the Ravens haven't had. And that's our biggest issue because a lot of the times it seems like, these Super Bowl winners do have elite receivers. You got anything to add on that?
Um, I mean, obviously, I agree. I mean, I agree with you. Anything about the receivers, we haven't done enough,
Yep.
and so I totally agree.
2 minutes left.
I feel like we never even really have had a wide receiver 1 for a while.
Yep.
So, I'm all for the OBJ acquiring him, and maybe McCole Hardman too, because I mean maybe he can go for maybe a cheaper price than
Yep.
usual. So I'm all for I agree with what you said. I'm all for everything.
All right. So I think we've said all we needed to say. Obviously, if we have anything to add, we'll, gotta film a new video. I mean, there's gonna be something new, like about Lamar Jackson's contract, especially with the what's it called, they're able to call him at 4 p.m.
Yeah, the
tomorrow
window
past that.
opens. Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be fun. Because they don't have the same promises that we have with EDC and the Ravens front office. They can just say, all right, well, we offered him this, he didn't accept it. But a lot of teams may not want to play these games right now because this seems to be more of a kind of a game almost, that both of these guys are playing. And I don't think teams want to do this. They don't want to do the dirty work for the Ravens. They don't want to play these games, and it's gonna be something to think about. So anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe to Birds of Prey Sports Talk. You have any last thoughts you want to get off your mind?
No last thoughts.
All right. Well, I think we've said all we needed to say. And like I said, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we're out.